signed version of it in American Sign Language, so that we can introduce it to the deaf community and let people know about it.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to learning about Gullah history. I don't know if I know much about that. Sounds great.
You're the expert.
So I've heard. So, all right.
So we actually need to be asking you
some questions, right? That's why I'm here. All right, so no, group 3. Who's in the third group?
We are
Back
in
here.
the back. Rebecca, myself,
Mhm.
and Shannon there,
Sitting over here.
and Jay, who's not here today.
Okay.
And we're going to talk
Oh.
about how the culture of Gullah has parallels to our deaf community.
Oh, nice.
So that really interested us.
Okay.
And there's a Unity Fest coming up on the 13th,
Tomorrow.
or-
Yeah, tomorrow, right?
Yeah, oh, it is tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't miss it.
Are you going to be here?
No, I have a fundraiser back in South Carolina tomorrow for our nonprofit, so I have to fly back today,
Oh, too bad.
right after class. Yeah. But now tomorrow at Unity Fest, what are you going to do?
We're setting up a booth to, and an exhibit to show pictures, things that we found online, and also from you, information about deaf culture and Gullah culture, and how they parallel, how there's oppression, language issues, and those kind of things.
Okay. So it sounds like you got a little bit out of yesterday's talk.
Oh, definitely. That was very important.
All right. And then the last group is everybody that's left over?
No,
No.
There's one person who's not here, and that's Kate.
The one who's sick.
And she's
Oh, it's
and
another
she's-
person that's out.
And she's been working on a special project that connects us to H Street. And she has
Oh.
been interviewing some of the businesses there,
Along
especially
there.
people who are not that familiar with our community here,
Okay.
and getting feedback from them.
From them.
And then
Mhm.
she is putting that into a kind of interview journal,
Right.
and then planning to share it with a variety of us on campus.
Interesting. Okay. Well, one thing that I'm thinking of through all of the projects that were mentioned was whether or not you're going to deal with any of the dynamics of displacement. Because when you look at Native Washington, all right, from a Native viewpoint, it would be like looking at the Gullah Geechee Nation from a Native viewpoint. Many people who are natives of Washington no longer can afford to live in Washington, or they were displaced because there was yet another government building coming in, another corporation coming in, another hotel coming in, even another university expanding. And so they've had to move out. So on many of my trips to Washington, when I ask people here, where are you from? Is this your home? Usually it's not. So I can now count how many, including Dr. Mitchell, how many Washingtonians I've ever met in the over 20 years that I've been coming to Washington, D.C. And I find that incredible. And so, but I still look at it from the perspective that I can look at my home, because every time I come to Washington, D.C., of course, your circles get people lost anyway. Your circles don't quite intersect the way we'd love them to, like in the shout, right? And they get you lost a little bit. But the thing is that you get lost because the dynamics of the streets change. There are new buildings, and that building wasn't there before, and so now you're saying, wait, I thought I knew where I was, but now I'm not sure where I am. So you end up lost. And many Gullah Geechees who've lived outside of the Gullah Geechee Nation for 20 years, 30 years, because they worked elsewhere, even we have a lot of them living here in D.C., when they come back to St. Helena Island, or Johns Island, or James Island, or Charleston, Savannah, Georgia, they can't find their way home sometimes because they no longer recognize the place.
So when that happens, it will be very interesting to see then, because the true character and nature of the neighborhood will in fact improve in many ways because of founding is our word through our working class development, but at the same time, the ideas of how founding and preservation sometimes come into conflict with each other.
Exactly. And I'm so glad that you told me you all used the word founding. With founding, that's always an interesting term to us, especially as people of African descent, because that term founding fathers, for instance, always brings up the issue of transatlantic slave trade. And for me, as a person who's a historian and a writer and a person of logic, how do you find something that's not lost? If I were to go in your home and money was sitting there somewhere, I shouldn't just pick it up and say, well, it's mine now because I found it. It's your home, right? My mother always said, "Honey, I can't find things out, the rest of people out." So in other words, you can't find things. You can't find things in other people's houses. And so a lot of times when we use the term founding as an American concept, it tends to be seen as conquering and displacement by the people whose house the other folks are coming into. And so, of course, we can go all the way back to Christopher Columbus's arrival, and I'm sure all the indigenous Americans would agree with me about this founding concept. You can go forward in time to George Washington and Lincoln and all these people, you know, who they consider the founding fathers, and again, the same opinion would hold, because how are you finding things in other people's homes? So when we start to talk about what many others call development, but I like to call destructionment, all right? Then you have a situation where the people whose home it is are not the ones usually asked, what do you want to be in this home? How do you want it to be situated? How have you maintained what you have all of these generations? And that's a key. Just like yesterday when we talked about the photographs in the museums, many times you'll have photographers, and no slight on the photographers that are here, but you'll have photographers arrive in a community first, and they'll start to take pictures. And what they're doing is they're capturing images of how that neighborhood looks. It can block it now? Okay, I will come around, yeah.
It's probably best if you hang out around.
Hang out with you, okay. So it's like, if they take pictures of that neighborhood first, they can now begin to use those images to redesign it. But part of the redesign usually doesn't have any images of the people who currently are living there in it. Now the pictures that end up of the people who were currently there often are the ones that end up in archives. They end up in museums because 10, 20 years later, someone will do an exhibition about that community and say, this is what this community once was. Or sometimes as a trade-off, they'll say, well, we're going to bring a community center. If you let us build over this whole 60 acres, and we're going to put in 1,000 new units on it. Now, they're not talking about new units for people who are already there. They're talking about new units for people who can now afford whatever the market price is. That may not be who's living there. Maybe your great-grandfather owned the house that you live in, so you don't have a mortgage. You don't have any bills on it. But now they're saying, we'll put these new houses here, because you know you don't need that old stuff. You know, you get rid of that. But you get rid of it, where do you live? And so when they trade off and you see a community center, sounds good. So people will say, well, okay, we don't see anything wrong with having a community center, and, you know, oh, there'll be stores. You're not realizing in their design back at their office, their plaza with the stores is where your house is. And where the community center is where someone's church is. And all of these things are going to be moved out to move in these new things. And again, the people who they captured on the photographs will only be in the community because the photos will be on the walls in the community center to say, this is the community that originally was here. And many times they'll even get people to come in and do oral histories. I don't know if any of you in your groups are actually going around, except for the 8th Street project that you mentioned, doing actual oral histories. I know it's a little hard for the ones working on Gullah Geechee history to do the oral histories from here, but you can always send us some questions to my email address, and I can forward them to some people at Gullah Geechee as well. And so with the oral histories, they'll many times record them, and that can be part of the exhibit, because now you can hear the voices of the people electronically, but you never meet the people. So is that the world we want to continue to live in, or not? And it's only when we all loan our voices to the issues that are going on in our communities that we really end up, as I showed you yesterday, connecting and then actually expanding our circle, because we start to understand the value of the different areas from the perspectives of the people whose ancestors helped to build it up. And many times it's even the people still alive that are the ones who helped to put something there where history took place. But we wouldn't know that if we never talked to one another. So now how the children to do? This year, my sister Audrey. Y'all know everybody going out to find some Gullah Geechee and thing right there and thing like that. Well, who would have think some did Gallaudet University and go and find a Gullah Geechee with a work up here? This your gal family from Georgetown, South Kakalaki. How wanted to do? How wanted to do, Sister Audrey?
Hi, how are you?
Well. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well now that I met you.
Oh, yes, yes. Always good to meet family. This is a family, yeah. And I saw when I pull out that rice and thing, you've been a small up. I see you been a small up. Now, you being from Georgetown, that is rice country all the way.
Yes, it is. My father wants rice at every meal, just about.
All right, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
He would eat
and
it,
snack
yeah.
in between.
Yes.
All right. Yes. So now, but you said your family is up here in the D.C. area now.
Yes, they are. My father is from Georgetown, South Carolina, and my grandmother and great-grandmother spoke Gullah Geechee, and my aunts and uncles, they know it when they hear it. They know some of the phrases and everything, and we've been talking about, it at every family reunion. We try to educate the younger ones about Gullah Geechee, so it was really a pleasure meeting you today.
Yeah, and now, y'all hear her voice, right? You all hear how she's speaking to you right now because I have her on camera. But I do want you to know that when I've been a crack my teeth like I did show earlier and things like that why I've been know something been a going over yawn in that corner because it been a cracky teeth, it been a crack up laughing. You see how he laughed? You see how pretty small though? Yeah, honey children, y'all know how he do. So yes, and she's here in Washington. She has gone ahead and she proceeds to speak to them in this manner. However, we know that she too knows Gullah Geechee, although she's putting it off on her aunts, uncles, and her father and so forth. We know that she does because she could understand a lot of things when I did say them in Gullah earlier today. And so it is a blessing always to come to a new place and then to find some of we own people here. So I'm so glad. So y'all, if I come back fat the next time I come from D.C., it'll be because it's this your gal, young. Because it done tell me I can come over the house with them. And y'all know we like for yam and rice and things like that. So you know that what's going on. You can't go to them Gullah Geechee house in Georgetown and don't get no rice. So even you're in D.C., got the rice going. That is Sister Audrey. All right, but definitely it is a blessing to meet you, Sister Audrey, and she is one of the wine glasses. And I know many of you who know about our Council of Elders know that we have Elder Lisa Wine Glasses, one of our original members of the Council of Elders for the Gullah Geechee Nation. So it is an honor truly, and I will be taking the message back. Say some of the family day up here and it'll do all right. So thank you for coming, Sister Audrey.
Thank you for coming. Really appreciate it.
All right. And so now, do you sign too, Audrey?
Yes, I do.
All right. So now, just hail the folks at home. Tell them something.
Hello. Thank you for allowing Queen Quet to come and visit. I appreciate it. Love you.
All right. Love you too, gal. And thank you. All 100 children know this year the Queen Quet head from the body of this year Gullah Geechee Nation. And this year the work going on. Peace and blessing. And y'all know peace the same whether we signing or we talking.